Yeah, so far I haven't gotten responses from other folks that I've tagged.
I wonder if it makes a lot of sense then to go through the agenda. I was hoping to speak a little bit about the future shape of affairs, given that we have some team reorg going on. But yeah, if people won't show up, I don't know about this. And also, I'd like to leave a bit earlier today, so I have more, a bit like 10 minutes or something like that more.
Yeah, we might have to punt on some of these things. I'm going to see Giuseppe added some of them, but if he's not here to provide context, then I mean, Kieran and I can certainly relay any updates to the other folks too. Did you want to mention that team reorg thing, or like at least touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that we heard the news from Kira and Giuseppe that they're going to be relocated to some other project, and that American colleagues are remaining, but it will be just one pair capacity. So I was just curious if there is some clarity on things like, are all engineers remaining on Korifi, but just one pair is going to be working in the open source, or are just 2 people remaining? And maybe if we have ideas of who's going to take Giuseppe's place, basically the 2 main questions that are in my head.
Oh yeah, sure. I think we're working out some of that on the VMware side. But like my understanding is that we'd still see all the American folks contributing, and probably just on some sort of rotating basis. And yeah, I think we're working out who on the American side would be stepping into Giuseppe's place on those leadership roles. So I think that's close to getting settled, but I don't want to commit anyone before that's completely confirmed.
Okay, so that's I guess that's good news, because we'll be working with all people, although we're different time zones. So that's another thing. Like, how do you envision? Because when we're working with Giuseppe, I guess it's easy. We had IPMs when we need to, and I guess this will have to change a little bit. Maybe a bit more async.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, that were the main things that I wanted to discuss with folks, but I guess we can still talk about this next time. Yeah, as far as I hear, it's not particularly clear yet, so maybe next time we'll have more.
I think we'll have a little more clarity. Yeah, next time for sure.
Yeah, I can see that Ram has a lot of questions, so maybe we can try and answer him at least.
Yeah.
So I think we haven't released for a long time, right? March, April, something like that. So I think we have a lot of new things. We just finished the async jobs, so that basically when you delete some resource, you can query if it's gone yet. I can remember that we did a lot of big things, but if other folks can help me with, because I was on a long leave recently, so my memory is a bit,
So we did some KPAC optimizations. One was reusing the cache so that builds after the first one go a lot quicker. Previously, we were creating a new KPAC image for each build, so it didn't have any, well, it didn't have good cache opportunities anyway. So that's good. Also, rolling deployments. So previously with a CF push, it would wipe out your deployed app and replace it with a new one. Now it's a lot more Kubernetes-like, where it'll just replace the running pods one by one. if you've got more than one of them. Those are a couple of nice user-facing things that happened.
Dash
We
B
also
for build back
support, yeah, build
is
packs.
another thing. So basically, you can now pick a build back from the ones that you have available and skip the detection phase. What else? We have a lot of stuff because we haven't released for a long time. Maybe we can send you a list of like a more like specific list offline, because I'll have to dig into the like stories or commits to give more details at this point. As for
We
the
have the 08 milestone in our GitHub project, but I can only see 4 issues there.
no, there are definitely more than that.
Yeah.
I guess it's just not very well maintained, maybe. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, user-facing stuff that's going to come out. And I guess maybe now that we've done the jobs epic, maybe we should release so that we get this stuff out. So I don't know if that answers the question, if you're looking for something specific, Ram.
No, I think generally that that's helpful. The reason I put that question up is we're obviously looking at some PR cycles. And when I say PR, I mean press release. So some press release around the time of KubeCon Chicago, which is November. So ideally about a month before that, we want to say that these are the 5 new cool tricks that Korifi has been able to master in between Amsterdam and now. So that's like the big, that's the overarching sort of question. And so the idea is, what can we provide as a list at that phase? And last time when we had spoken to people, we were talking about Docker support and something close to like CF Marketplace or something that can do services on Korifi and things like that. So that's the reason I put in those specifics, but a general answer like what you said is like totally acceptable. I think if we find a list of what we've done between V0.7 and now, and also get a list of, these are the 4 or 5 things that we're looking to do in the next few months. I think that's totally adequate.
It's funny that service marketplace and Docker is coming up, because that's exactly what we at SAP are interested in. Like we had specific questions about this as well, meaning that maybe we have like similar expectations from both sides of the community. I think the Docker thing might happen relatively soon. I think Giuseppe had a draft. Giuseppe had a draft proposal for this one, but it's not really something we're actively working on. But if people are interested, we might prioritize it relatively soon, because it's not very big, I guess, as well. With marketplace, I guess that's a bigger topic, managed services and like brokers. So that's a very big thing that we're also interested in at SAP. So I guess that's good.
The reason the Docker story is kind of higher priority is because when we go and speak to people and say, here's Korifi, try it, not everybody wants to start containerizing for the first time with Korifi. A lot of people already have like container-based workflows, and the first thing that we want to go and tell them to do is just move those containers over to Kubernetes through Cloud Foundry. So it provides a nice on-ramp into starting to use Korifi and experiencing that CF push thing. Obviously, we want the end goal is always to get them to get their source code in and use Korifi through that. But having support for existing containers simplifies a lot of things for people who we are trying to get to try this for the first time. So there's always that gap that exists when we speak to people and say, you can try this, but you'll have to point your source and containerize for the first time, etc. And they always come back to us with, what if I have existing containers and things like that. So it's definitely something that makes it convenient for our job on the road, so to say. And I think it's also a useful feature in general if that's possible. And if it's a relatively small effort, I think it can give us like a big win if we can just advertise that in general.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can prioritize soon, because we don't have anything like the mini epic for jobs is done. So I don't know if it's going to be that small, but we'll have to think about it. We haven't explored it a lot.
Yeah,
Have to
if
bypass
it
the
can
whole.
yeah, if it can be prioritized in some form or manner, I think that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, sure. It's sounds very logical to do so if people from all around the community are asking for it.
Yeah, Ram, I think, any feedback that you're getting from, or that you're generating from like any workshops or intro sessions that you're running is super helpful. I guess I'm curious, like what the main appeal would be, even like in that introductory step to using Korifi and the CF interface to run a Docker container on Kubernetes. Because then, it's not handling the build steps, and, there's maybe not as big of a gap in between like the CF interface and just kind of raw Kubernetes at that point. So.
Correct. It's only about, getting, this was already available with like CF for Kate. So it's, I guess the only thing is, you're just providing them with options for something that they can see and feel more. It's a little more tangible when you talk to people about getting their workloads onto Kubernetes. Because not every time people seem to want to start containerizing with Paketo and stuff. And I'm not sure how we handle like apps that are written in multiple languages. So if they have like, let's say, a React front end with some PHP backend and things like that, and they already have a container for that, I think it's easier to just use CF to get that container onto Kubernetes versus go through the whole pack build exercise. Because I haven't tried out any of those yet, but those are cases where I feel proving that Korifi just generally works, and then proving that Korifi works for your apps designed specifically for your environments and things like that. So I think it's a two-step process that happens there, and so we probably have like half of that step covered right now, and then we once with the Docker stuff, I think it's just a way for us to convince them that containers can be managed using this, and then all the newer apps can follow after that. So
Okay, got it. So yeah, I mean, I could see like saying like, hey, sure, you've got this pre-built container, and here's even a smaller set of YAML and some simpler imperative commands that you can use to run it. And then you can build on top of that to actually start using build packs embedded in the platform to take it everything from source, like once you've gotten kind of familiar with that incremental step.
I can also imagine people having apps that are simply not buildable by Paketo because they're, for example, missing build packs, or they have some weird CI process or whatever. and they already have their CI pipelines that is producing Docker images for them. So if they could just use Korifi to run those Docker images on on Kubernetes, it's going to be pretty cool.
Cool. Well, is that a wrap for today then?
Yeah, if Ram doesn't have any more questions, we can start from the beginning. Though those are some technical discussions. Maybe we can talk about the branch protection exception. Giuseppe mentioned that with latest changes of branch protection rules for Cloud Foundry GitHub repos, korifi-ci is going to be protected, meaning that we cannot push directly to main. And he said that a PR has to be made into the Cloud Foundry configuration, and Tim is able to approve it and merge that PR, but because Tim is not here, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably to this file in the community org. Like that's where the PR would go to override some of the branch protection configuration.
Yeah, maybe. Do we have korifi-ci there?
I don't think it's there yet, but that's just for deviating from the default configuration that would get generated. And I believe Giuseppe turned that on. Let me find the exact reference in the charter definition. Oh yeah, so if you look in the embedded YAML in the charter file, there's this line in there under config that is turning on those branch protection rule generation for all the repositories that are in under the management of the working group.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that branch protection.yaml file would then provide some overrides for specific repositories.
I see. So he also mentioned that the machinery that's processing that YAML has been broken, so we can still push directly to korifi-ci, but soon this is not going to be the case.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, well, that sounds like maybe something to discuss with the TOC, especially Stefan Merker has been the main person maintaining the actual automation there.
Cool, and the first thing is about memory limits. So today we had a failure to deploy one of our reference applications that we used for acceptance. And the problem was that build failed with build running out of memory. So with one of the recent commits in Korifi, people are able to specify memory and ephemeral storage limits for the build containers. Now the problem is that when you specify a limit, previously we did not do that, meaning that the builds were unlimited by memory. But now they are, so the default value of 1 GB seems to be insufficient. That's why we tried bumping it to something ridiculously high, because we didn't know how much memory we want, so we put 4 GB. But then it turns out that Kubernetes and the way it handles pods, if you specify resource limit on CPU, for example, it defaults the request to the very same value, which means that if you provide quite a big number for the limit, then your pod may not be schedulable on the cluster because you simply don't have that much memory on the node. So this is like a chicken and egg problem. You want high limits, but you want your pod to be schedulable. So we came up with a magic number that kind of works for our acceptance environment, which is 1.5 GB of memory. But then we have the question, do we want to always specify those limits? Maybe we have to make them optional, meaning that if people don't care to limit their memory on build pods, they simply may choose not to. Giuseppe mentioned that according to his memory, built memories for CF1 VMs is currently unlimited. Because
I don't think that's the case.
yeah, maybe that's wrong. Because people are paying for memory for their apps, but who is paying the bill for the build memory?
That might also be controlled by the memory limit on the app itself. I'd have to check.
Maybe.
But there is some limit that gets applied.
So if that's true, we can probably. The problem is that this limit is a configuration of the deployment. It's not. It cannot be configured per app, at least with the current implementation. Maybe we should change this.
It's worth double checking exactly what Cloud Controller is setting up in CF on VMs.
Yeah, but it's a bit confusing because you force people to specify limits, and we don't have guideline what those limits should be. Okay, I can start a thread on Slack about this to see what other people think.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I just don't remember off the top of my head how we ended up solving this in CF on VMs. And there we've got the same allocation issue because that that memory allocation is effectively both the request and the limit in terms of Kubernetes resource specifications. All right, but yeah, let's talk about it. I think, yeah, are we done? Should we wrap things up? Georgie, I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah, I have to go a couple of minutes ago.
All right,
it's fine.
Well,
cool. Thank you
great.
all.
Cool.
Good to see you all. Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.